Hi guys, you're listening to Baha. How you all doing? 1.6 has dropped and we are having fun. I am not, however. I have been having a hell of a time with this video. I am so bad at editing on this PSN and SHAREfactory. I have no idea how to features, but I'm getting better at it. It's work in progress. But anyway, so let's talk 1.6. 1.6 has changed. The one big change everyone's moaned about right now is the armor. Sorry, my alarm went off there. Armor has changed dramatically because armor no longer factors into your toughness, or it should as much factors into your toughness. Okay. Well, obviously, we'll look into that. We're looking at some skill diversity and some of the skill, some of the well, not skill diversity, build diversity, I should say. And we're obviously going to be looking at that. Okay. We will touch on armor. That's one of the main things here. But just have a look at this clip. This is probably quite a funny thing here. World Tier 5. I've got a striker build on. Pharaoh's Mask, and I'm going up against these cleaners for this, right? One of the main things we're going to be looking at in this build video is obviously the healing. I think most of the healing is an issue. Like taking cover is essential now. It's a cover-based shooter again, but it's still maintaining the time to kill. You are kind of the same. Does replace a lot of your armor. So hopefully, if you do like the video, give me a like anyway, and we can talk about it as per se. So the first big issue is obviously armor and health. Okay, so let's go into it. So currently, I've got 4,052 points into health. This equates to 15 points of health per 1 point of stamina, right? So what this means is with 15 times 4,052 I get 60,780 points, right? That plus, right, so the 60,000 plus having the 80,000 from World Tier 5 plus the armor rolls on my armor equate to the max armor roll. Okay, so get that into your heads, right? So toughness is somewhat reversed in a way. It used to be armor dictated your toughness. Now it's health, right? So the more health you have, the better outcome you'll have, right? So you can see armor rolls on certain pieces of armor, and that is you've got your holster, your knee pads, your backpack, and your chest piece, right? Basically the same as armor did, right? So I've got 60,000 there, right? Plus I've got a base 80,000. Plus I've got the armor rolls or health rolls from my armor, right? That all equates to 197,000, right? So you get that. So they all add up to one big number, and that number is how much health you have, right? So don't think about armor anymore. Think about the health. Right? Obviously, I want to try and get as much armor as you possibly can, but yeah, we'll touch on that. So, with that said, that number there is the important number. Right? Okay. So that's the number you want to work on as much as possible. That can be higher or lower depending on what rolls you have on your armor. Right? So, say here, I have a build, right? And it's a striker build. I've got 4,052 points of stamina, but I only have that because I want to unlock my talents, right? So same applies as usual. It's the same thing that applies. That's how you would work it, right? Whereas the rest of the points would go into firearms, right? The old way of doing things was doing it in a sort of way that you would have armor on everything, and then you would put in points into firearms and into stamina to unlock talents, right? Now you can go into a different area of doing things the complete opposite way, of putting as much into stamina as you possibly can, and then putting all the rest into firearms, right? So you can do this in a skill build also, as you can see on your screen. I have done it with a skill build with the same amount of health as a DPS build does have, but with less of an impact on my health. I don't have 4,052 anymore. I've only got 42,000 health, right? But in total, I've got 205,000 health, right? Does that make sense to you? So I can sacrifice all that stamina, all that firearms, put it into electronics, work out with 347.74 points of electronics, and still be as tanky. This is because you have a difference in build. So build diversity has changed. It's completely changed, right? So now the problem you're going to have is you're going to have healing problems, right? So with DPS builds, you'll have electronics, so you're going to have a lot of problems with healing, right? That's going to be really bad. So on this one, like see here, this is the FireQuest is a skill build. They have options, so skill build an option, skill power. So what you want to be thinking about is on your electronics build, instead of health, you might want to have skill power, right? But you still want some health somewhere. I would take like the Marco Styles best in slot video. Do look at that, have a look at it, and obviously take your own from that. But generally, the way I wanted to break it up was when you're doing a skill build, you want as much skill power as you can, right? Whereas with the DPS build, you want as much health as you can, right? The FireQuest is a more of a sort of tankier version of the usual sort of skill build, but that's purely because I've got the fire turret and it's more CC, right? So I can kind of afford to have a bit more leeway on that one. I don't have to be as electronic heavy, right? Which is quite good because you don't want to have too much electronics essentially, right? So now you can have all these good stuff. You can have like a full electronic build and only have like a couple points into stamina, and you can still walk up with the same amount of health, right? So skill diversity isn't just locked to armor all the time, okay? It isn't just locked to health. A couple of things I would look at is obviously you can make your builds a bit more diverse now, right? This is basically saying like if you chose to have no stamina points, right, you would need to then have health on all your armor that you could possibly have health on, right? But if you put points into your, say, put points into health, then you don't have to have that stamina. Therefore, you can move the stamina to firearms or electronics. Right? Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you? Right. So, because of health, you do not have to have stamina. You can move points of stamina into something else. Right? So, you're getting on top of that. We all feeling it. So less stamina points means I can put all my points into firearms or electronics because I've got health on all my armor. But then you'd have to have health on all your armor. Therefore, if you want to do the bit of both, is you put some into stamina to get sort of a wee bit of difference there. And then you can put things like on your backpack, you can put skill power. If you're going to be if you're going to be a DPS build or a skill build, you might want to have that anyway because that will obviously increase your heal power. It will increase your cooldowns, all that kind of thing. So there is a kind of give and take now with the way the builds work. Obviously, with some of the armor pieces, things are really irrelevant. Exotic damage resistance, I would have that on one piece of armor purely because I had to. I was kind of stuck with that rule, unfortunately. But there is other things you can have on the armor itself that will help you in the long run. Look at this one here. So health on the backpack, but you also have the power to put in skill power, which is great. Great skill power. Yeah, like either or you can go for more quick damage, or you could go for the health. Okay. So you're not just limited to that. You obviously want to do a sort of whole. So see, I've got really low stamina points. I want to have that health pool, but I've got some into stamina. Therefore, I could put that one minus roll health and put it into something else like skill power. So I'm wanting to kind of compensate, right? Obviously, with mods in place, I have just completely gone with skill haste, right? With everything, I've gone skill haste mad. Because I can. I don't have to do armor anymore. But skill haste is essentially my own armor. So what you want to look at is in the sort of total grander scale things, right? Is that I want to drill this really home with you, right? Is that if you don't have the stamina, get health. If you don't have the health rules, you have to put a little bit of stamina in, right? But you can make some modifications, right? So on your holster, you could go with free health rules, and then your holster go for skill haste, right? That will help you with skill haste mods. You're talking like 30% art, like skill haste or something like that, which will give you a 30% more advantage over other DPS players who have just went for health rules, okay? And vice versa. It works all the way around. So the skill diversity is a bit locked right now. It's kind of like you kind of go one way or the other, but at the same time it's less limited to what it used to be. I mean, look at here, you can get skill power on your backpack, or you can get the stability or health. I mean, the stability, but let's not go into that one. But with skill power or health, you can obviously compensate what you don't have, which is great because this is what you used to have in the old days of you used to have 3 into firearms and 2 into stamina. You could get it so that you'd have to put mods in that were all stamina mods with armor. That way you had to compensate for what you didn't have or the stats you've lost out on somewhere. So you can kind of roll things in differently to try and balance out your build as much as possible, right? So, like say here, this one, like the gloves and stuff like that, the gloves are still the same. They're still critical hit damage, critical hit chance, weapon damage stuff. It's really the same. I mean, the mask is pretty much the same as well. Ignoring minors and majors, the difference is so much better for the community, right? It means you can build better things. I mean, obviously, enemy armor damage. If you don't know the math, I can kind of explain it, right? So, 50% armor, right? 50% armor, and you have 60% armor, enemy armor damage, right? 1/3 of that translates into PvP. PvP would be 20%. It's not 20% of 50%, as in like take away 20%, like take away 20% of 50, and you're ending up with like 30, right? It doesn't work that way. It would actually be divided by 20% divided by 50 is 10%, so you'd ignore 10% of the armor, which is only equate to like a 10% damage buff essentially. It just kind of works out a wee bit different, but now you don't really need it in PvP. So you can kind of ignore it now. ARs are still kind of effective. I just wouldn't go too heavy into enemy armor damage. It's not worth it. Really not. Damage to elites is a useless stat as well, but always kind of useful to have around, purely because there is always going to be NPCs whatever game mode you decide to play. Right. So at the same time, PvE and PvP, there isn't kind of like a sort of like difference now as such. Obviously, damage to elites and stuff like that, protection from elites is still relevant. Enemy armor damage, fair enough, you could probably use it on that, but generally speaking, you'll probably get a lot more utility out of different things. I think in general, what everyone needs to do is to have a think about what we really want, using the sort of old ways of doing things, but at the same time thinking of health as armor, but at the same time not thinking about each stat as an individual, but it's thinking of them as all three combined to round yourself off a bit more. Okay, so don't get stuck into that trap of just being like, oh, I've got a DPS build, blah blah, right? So continue on from that. So don't get stuck in your wee bit of a strut, right? Don't get stuck in that wee thing of thinking like DPS build, blah blah. What you want to do is you want to make it so that one side is really heavy and the other, but at the same time you want to still balance it out so that you can activate talents if you're a DPS build. You gotta leave talents behind if you're going to be a skill build. You're going to have to leave it all behind essentially and just get on with it, right? So skill haste mods are your friend. I swear they're your friend. DPS build or not, they are your friend. Skill builds a bit different there, but as you can kind of sort of see in the background, the things like flame turrets. Love the build. I love that the way it's set up. I will change this sort of skill build with Liberator and that kind of thing later on. But again, you want to have good skill haste. Okay. Skill haste is important for your skills. You'll notice that skills have a lot more cooldowns now, and the health is less abundant right? That's because you've got, say, 2,000 health now, whereas before you could have, like, say, 1,000 health or 1,500 health or 1,050 health essentially. So your heals a little more effectiveness now, right? And obviously skill power could give you a bit more bit for your buck, whereas now you're going to have a bit more skill power. So you might want to sacrifice a health roll on a backpack to be skill power to try and compensate for that with a skill haste mods, that kind of thing. So really think about what you're going to want to do here. Forgetting armor, right? Forgetting how it wants to roll. I do have some good armor rolls here on this armor. That's only because I collected it for so long, essentially. Okay. So the new patch is great. It's a new patch. It's awesome. It's a lot to get your head round. I have kind of touched on it. Like I hope I kind of explained some of it to you. Like apart from a DPS build, you really don't have to go into stamina, right? You can still get all the help you can, but you're missing out on things like on skill haste and stuff like that, right? So you can sort of chop and change, right? On this one here, I will sort of make some modifications to a striker build, as you can see on your screen, right? And this is how simple it is, right? So I've got the mask. I forgot about the mask. And I'm gonna go straight to the electronics or health and kill. So I'm kind of stuck with health and kill. There's not much I want from enemy armor damage or damage to elites. So keeping that is a bit of a sacrifice. Let's just keep it enemy. Okay. Health on kill, 4% isn't a lot, but say 5% of like 100, 200,000, that's still going to be a wee bit of buck for like a wee bit of health there, right? But I don't want the electronics. Get rid of the electronics. I could obviously keep it. I did obviously I thought about keeping it just so I could obviously use a bit more healing power, but the way I thought about PvP was I'm not going to need that. Like I'm only going to be doing like a couple of kills and then dying. So I was like, last stand, yeah, okay, whatever. But at the same time, I did have a wee low, a Barrett's chest piece that I obviously wanted to try and keep as good as humanly possible. And that was obviously something I had to re-roll, but I did get 4% from that, so now I have 8% health on kill, right? I could do another 4% from, say, my gloves or something like that, so that I could sort of balance it out. And I would feel a lot more rounded out every time I got a kill. Getting more health back means that I can obviously endure my battle a lot longer. I can be in battle for a lot longer without having to heal. Obviously I don't have my heals anymore, so I'm going to pick my battles. So everything rounds out. Everything is rounding out on this one, right? So you see there, I've got health on kill or all resist. I'm getting rid of all resist. All resist is absolute mint. No one needs that. No one needs health. Just forget about all resist. Just forget it's a stat. Obviously the firearm roll is not perfect, but you know what? I want more health, therefore I can be a bit more tanky, and that's obviously what we're going to be aiming for. You want to aim for more health here and there, and obviously wanting to get things done like get rid of all the useless stats that you're not going to need. But still, 8% of health and kill isn't a lot. It's not like a pure game changer. A hiccup in there, sorry. I don't know what's up with me today. It's not a game changer, but at the same time, if you're building for health on kill, I would recommend it. Because like 2000 health, right, on a DPS build, and then say you've got that 2000 health with a DPS, you're going to be talking like really rubbish skill power, so you're not really going to be able to maintain it much. Whereas if health on kill, you would be able to like say kill something and then come back and you'd have that health back. So 25% or whereabouts as high as you can get it would be beneficial without using Nomad, obviously, because Nomad's half of the no pals. So skill haste is obviously the thing we will look in here again. Even for DPS builds, you still want skill haste. So I'm going to relax for this next part. Obviously, you see here that 83,000 health is not a great heal, so you want to be finding something else around. Let's just go back to me relaxing. There we go. Woo! I hate talking for that long. I talk continuously just so I don't have to hear my own voice. Alright, so while I was doing all that today, I literally have just logged in for 5 minutes. That's all I've done at this point. I rolled about half an hour about the clippage, right? One thing to remember is it's that the SMG's got a skill crit chance change. Another crit chance. It's awesome. But anyway, they got a bit of change to that. Remember, when you're doing a skill build or doing some sort of DPS build with the SMGs, the SMGs do have crit chance, but they are losing the damage. So always try and find some damage there so that you can find a good happy medium, right? And obviously, the way you're building now, you just want to build to have fun, and like there's not, you don't have to take yourself too seriously with it. I know a lot of people do take it seriously, and they say, "Oh, this is going to be a really good gun. This is going to be really good for this and that, blah blah blah." But the end of the day is, do what you're happy with. Do with what you feel natural doing. Like if I've got a flame build, I'll use my flame build for when I'm not feeling like a DPS build, but I still use my gun hunters because I know I can take advantage of the fact that I don't have good firearms using the fire turret. Obviously, I'm not happy with the fact that Predator's Mark's gone. Might build an Alpha Bridge set. People were like, well, why would you do that, Baha? Because you can still use an exotic on your primary. It's just not the secondary won't come through. So you can still use primary. So that's things like a Hungry Hog, that kind of thing be used, or a Bulldog. You can still use these guns. Okay. But I probably will build a high-end build as well on top of that for DPS purposes. But yeah, that's me. If you guys like the video, please leave me a comment, like the video, and let me know what you thought of the video. And yeah, have fun and keep on building.